Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sexual Diversity the Sexual Diversity Panel. Yeah, my name is KiyoshiYoRHa, and I have amazing panelists here today to talk about other sexualities in our queer community. This panel is basically more so to learn about our community members. And also to learn more about my panelists here today. We'll just go ahead and go down the panel, and we're just going to go down and ask us what you tell us what you identify as and your pronouns, please. We'll go ahead and start with In Prayer.
Hello, everyone. My name is In Prayer. I'm an AFAB drag queen on Twitch. I am a bisexual queen. Was there anything else I need to do? Oh, my pronouns are she, her.
She, her. Lovely. Lekka K.
Oh, so I'm Lekka K, and I do drag occasionally on my streams as a drag king, as Ash Fuckum, and I am a pansexual individual, and I use she/her as well.
Lovely. Lesbiana. Les? Hello? Yeah. 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 Yes. Non-binary lesbian. Watermelon, or otherwise Kiki.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, my name's Kiki. I am a variety/drag streamer here on Twitch. I am a gay, agender, aromantic, and my pronouns are he, they.
He, they. Lovely. And yes, my name is KiyoshiYoRHa. I'm a pansexual, drag queen here on Twitch. And I go by she, they. Les, I think you are muted on stream, it seems. I think your mic isn't set up.
Hello.
Hello. We can hear you, but I think it isn't set up in OBS. I do want to.
Anyone hear me?
Just ahead of time, everyone. I've had issues. I'm having issues with my internet, and Les is currently hosting for me. Please bear with us as we get all technical difficulties out of the way. It's gonna be.
It wouldn't be a true panel without some technical difficulties.
I promise. Anyway, we're gonna try to get Les back on. I do have some people that are hearing. Otherwise, please let us know if you guys can hear Les. But to reiterate what Les said, they are a non-binary lesbian and they go by they, them. But yes, I also go as she, they in drag. Otherwise, pronouns out of that, I'm pretty much okay with. I think Les is. Can you all hear Les? Okay, we can hear Les. Lovely. Thank you so much, everyone. But yes, today we're gonna be talking about sexual diversity, and I'm so glad to have you all here because it's important that we know more about our community and just about more identities, so that way other people that aren't too sure what they identify as can either look up to or just look up to other people to ask more questions about themselves. So we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Did we get Lekka introduction?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I may have blanked out for a second, so I just wanted to make sure. I know Lekka, but I just wanted to make sure. I needed to check myself too, make sure I'm here. It looks like I'm present.
I don't even know if I'm here. I'm going to be honest, but as you could tell, I think I've been robotically being a robotic voice for the most part. But again,
this is AI Kiyoshi.
Yes, I am here and ready to go. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead with the first question that I have ready for our panelists. I did have it up for you guys to see as well, just in case you can't hear me.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start with the first question, which is why is it important to have sexual representation? And we'll go ahead and start down the list again with In Prayer.
I don't know if I'm fully ready for this, but I will go with what I think. I think representation is very important. I think that in today's society, we've always been just like you're straight or this, and I think when you also get into the different types of sexual diversity, such as bisexual, pansexual, demisexual, and the list goes on. I don't want to include anyone. We start to not think about those things. And so I think having a dialogue and talking about those things are really important to bring awareness to people that there is more than just either gay or straight. There's queer and all these different people that we're gonna talk about today. And that's why I think it's so important to have representation and to inspire us to be our true selves. I think that's a really, really important thing.
Yeah. Lekka?
I agree, because the entire world we live in right now is very heteronormative, where you're just assumed basically at birth that you're straight unless proven otherwise, which is something that needs to be taught that that's not actually the default, and that all these sexualities have existed since time and humans have ever began, and it's just that they haven't been given as much notice or as much publicity as they should, and it's always been people that were heterosexual that were given the priorities instead. So being able to have the diversity so that people can be like, oh, well, I don't feel like I really identify as gay, but I kind of have crushes on the same gender as me, but I also like people who are the same gender as me or not the same. It makes it so that they can have all of these in-betweens, because you're not over just going to be, black and white, you're either this or that. It shows that there's a beautiful, very many different shades of gray in between that you can be. Like, for example, I thought at one point I was bisexual because I liked girls and I liked guys, but then I realized after I was doing research on more LGBTQ stuff that I was like, oh, okay, well, actually, I am pansexual because I can have a crush on somebody regardless of what their gender is. They could be gender fluid, they could be non-binary, they could be metrosexual as a person in drag performance, and I could be still sexually attracted to them or romantically attracted to them. And that's something that bisexuality doesn't necessarily fully cover. And so I felt I most finally related to that. But growing up, you only really hear, oh, well, you're either straight, you're gay, or you're bi. And finally being able to come to the realization that there's way more than just those three things that exist was really empowering, and made me finally feel like I understood myself a lot more. So it's important to have representation so more people can feel like they are comfortable with themselves.
Yeah, it's a whole spectrum. What about you, Les, as a non-binary lesbian? Why is it important to have sexual representation in that?
I think it's important just because you don't know who could be, like, since we are all streamers, you don't know who could be watching, who could be kind of feeling or questioning themselves. And so when we have this representation and we're on the internet, we can really, I guess, other people who are watching can see themselves in us. And so when we have that representation, we can help others in a multitude of ways.
Yeah. Key or Watermelon?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with what everyone has said so far. I think from like a personal standpoint, and for kind of why I believe it's important from kind of my understanding of my own sexuality over the many, many years that I've been trying to figure it out. I think, I grew up in a family that was absolutely fine with, me coming out. There wasn't any issues with that, but there was so much neutrality when it came to the media we consumed, the newspapers we read, the radios we listened to, that, when I started feeling the things that I did feel, there was nowhere that I could really turn to. There was nothing that I could really kind of go, okay, this is what I need to look at. This is what I need to read about. This is where I need to go or to understand these feelings. And so there was a lot of, there was many years of confusion. And I think that as we're kind of, developing as a culture. I think that's gotten a lot better. Like I look at people on Twitch, I look at people on TikTok, I see like young teens who are so confident and understanding of who they are and their sexuality, their sexual identity, that it's fantastic to see. So I'm like, if only I knew that when I was 13, 14, 15, if I was that sure of who I was, that would have been amazing. And even to this, I came out as agender literally about 4 weeks ago, so I'm still discovering who I am now. And the only reason I came out, thank you, the only reason I even came out as that though is because after I had a conversation with a few of my non-binary friends, I was like, wait a second, that sounds really similar to what I feel, but no one's ever spoken to me about that. I've never had the exposure to that before. And so I think it's like it's so important. And the more I read about it, the more I was like mind blown. Like I've felt this my entire life. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, and I think your personal experience is a great example of that as well. Because once we see that in others, especially those of like social media or like even on TV, which we're actually going to switch over to that in a sec. Like it helps us find validation for like it helps us find validation in ourselves. But speaking on that, do you just going to go back in reverse? Kiki, do you believe that do you know if there's any representation in education media at all? Do you see anything in like basically video games, shows, or any movies that you can think of?
In terms of just sexuality diversity at all, or anything particular?
I mean, it could essentially branch out to also like gender as well, being an agender person. Do you see any shows and movies as well as there being agender? And you can also go into as well aromantic as well, like any of those.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like I slightly answered that when I said, I didn't even know I was agender until weeks ago. And I've spoken, I have trans friends. I'm in LGBT communities, and even in those spaces, talking with people in those circles, I still wasn't aware of that. And I think that probably reflects what kind of content and what kind of media I absorb, because I wasn't that's nothing necessarily that came up. So that's kind of the agender side. In terms of aromanticism, it's something entirely different. I know it's a term that not a massive amount of people know. So if you don't know what aromanticism is, it's someone who identifies as not really wanting to be in a relationship. They don't covet relationships. If they are in relationships, they can find them uncomfortable. They can find them disorientating. They don't really like them, which is again something I find. In terms of that, no, absolutely, I never see that. If I'm watching a film, if I'm watching, if I'm playing a game, love relationships are all very, very big story hooks when it comes to any sort of media. Music, most music has some sort of love element to it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So there's a lot of times that I'm like, I'm sitting, I could be playing a game on stream and people are like, oh, this bit's going to really get you. This is going to really like emotionally move you, because it's, a partner that has, been through something really tragic with their partner. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, I kind of understand. I get that, what that would be, but to me, I wouldn't find that too, insane. I find, family moves me a hell of a lot more than like relationship stories do. So yeah, for me personally, in terms of like, the gay side, I see that a lot now. I mean, that's everywhere, even in content that I think, my parents and my family watch, they're kind of normalized to that a little bit now. But as it was saying before, there's like that gray area in between that still just isn't explored in a lot of our media.
Yeah, and I think that's something, of course, I think being queer in general in the hetero world, I think that's something that is still something that's still confusing to a lot of people. But I mean, I'm hoping for the future for sure as well, that we can see more of that in a lot of shows and movies. Which going to Les, what do you think? Can you think of any shows or movies that show either like non-binary people or like are in particular non-binary lesbians, or video games as well?
As far as movies, I haven't seen really any specific like non-binary lesbians. But there are a multitude of just strictly lesbian movies. For example, But I'm a Cheerleader is probably one of like the more popular kind of, I don't know if it would be considered like cult classic, but that's like
Sure.
when you think of like lesbian movies, you think of like But I'm a Cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
Any one of those like kind of on that that sort of wavelength. As far as games, I'm I'm not particularly sure. I
I'm
don't
sure
think
with
I've
in
seen any.
particular to I'm sure in particular to
Mm-hmm.
non-binary lesbians, it's definitely a harder one to go into. The only one I can think of as of right now for video games is no, it's fading me, but it's a zombie game, and it has some I forgot. Uh, I literally just blinked just now. I'm sorry. Um, there was a game that I distinctly remember. Or is this Square Enix game? It was right after the trans game that came out recently, or right before. Strange Life is Strange, I believe.
Oh,
I believe,
yes.
I believe that
yes.
that is a lesbian character in there. Chloe? I think it was Chloe. I'm so sorry. I actually did not do my research on that. But switching over, okay, do you know of any pansexuals that are in maybe social education media, entertainment media, such as like video games and stuff?
Can't think of any in video games particularly. I was sitting here trying to think of if there was any that I could see myself in, and there aren't any. But as far as shows go, I know that I have felt a bigger connection to shows like Dragula that I've seen
Mm-hmm.
like on Netflix, because the representation in queerness that's on there, especially with the different drag performers, most of them, of course, are going to be AMAB, since it was mostly queens, but
Mm-hmm.
there were ones on there too, like Landon Cider, and
Yeah.
even though they are lesbian, and there was also Hollow's Eve, and she was somebody
Mm.
who just kind of was pansexual, and she identified as she and they, and I thought that was really nice to be able to see those other representations, because you don't see people who are the they them or agender very typically, or
Right.
all these other ones very frequently. It's usually in media very like, okay, the masses have accepted gays, so we're only going to have AMAB individuals that are gay. You don't see a lot of trans people that are in there, because that's something that, the mainstream isn't ready to accept that yet. So we're just going to kind of exclude trans people from being in these things. And if we're going to shock people with LGBT, it's just going to be they're either gay or lesbian. That's all that people can understand at this point.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you don't see that very often. So it's nice when you can. And so shows like Dragula are probably going to be one of the biggest examples I have for it. But I'm
Mhm.
hoping that we can see that grow, so that more people like Kiki and more people like Les and people like myself too can see more people similar to us represented. And that's something I like about streaming as a source of entertainment, because you can find more real concrete examples of people that you relate to and are more similar to you than if you're just trying to flick through TV shows with actors. So
Right. Yeah. What about you as a bisexual? Do you find any shows, movies, or video games that represent you?
Not super much. That's not even a real sentence.
You're fine.
Not a lot, to be honest. I think there was one. I don't know. This was so long ago when I watched. So I've been out as bisexual for a year now. I've always known, but I've been fully out for a year, almost a year and a half now. And
Yeah.
so I had watched, I think Once Upon a Time, I think one of the characters may have been bisexual or something.
Right.
This was years ago when I saw that. And I remember seeing that and being like, that's pretty awesome and supportive. But as for seeing a lot of bisexuality in video games or TV or mainstream media, I don't really see a lot of that. I think the erasure is a real thing when you are, because a lot of people are like, well, you can only be this or that. I do believe Halsey might be bisexual, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to assume, but I know that they have written a song that was talking about being in a relationship with a man and a woman, and I really relate to that song. Well, that's something I can see, like there's representative, like right there, they're being open, like about like, I have feelings for this person, but they want this for me, but I also like this person, but it's not going to work because of this. And I think that's really amazing. But we don't see a lot of that. I don't see a lot of that. And it's unfortunate, but I really appreciate an artist like that being so open, because kind of like Kiki had said, you know, being like, well, I don't really relate with that or whatever. It's like, or like kind of going off a little bit of that is like, oh, when you're talking about when straight people are talking about straight relationships, it's like some of that stuff doesn't quite apply to being lesbian or pansexual or bisexual, or, you know, the whole grand scheme of things, not scheme, but like, you know, the whole fluidness.
Fluidity.
What was that?
Fluidity.
Yeah, so I don't yeah, that's kind of all I gotta say about that. I wish there was more.
I think the interesting thing about being in particular to being bi and pan is that I think for the most part, or just any queer person in general that doesn't necessarily identify with gay, is that when it's presented in like shows and stuff, it's usually like never said in concrete. I can only think of like one show as of recently that I've watched called Schitt's Creek, where there is a character in there named David, and their dad actually said they are pan, and then obviously the whole what, like pans or something came out, but whatever, it's fine. But the point being is, when I first heard that, I was like, oh my God, that is the first time I've ever heard a show say like, this person is this particular queer person. And that's more than just being gay, which is, there's nothing wrong with being gay, but there are other representations and identities out there. And the only other one I can think of as well from that is kind of Sense8. Sense8 alone is just its own kind of thing. But for that, no one actually was, in the sense that you talk about Halsey, that the characters never said that they were pan or bi or anything. You just kind of see that they're all loving of one another, and you kind of just assume, which I think that's the thing, a problem, is just it's assumed that they're something and that's not confirmed.
I was going to add to the pansexual thing you said about David. I think in Schitt's Creek is a really good example, because they actually there's an entire scene where they take a moment to kind of explain what he means when he says that as well. He's explaining to about, she's like, so do you like red or do you like white? And he's like, don't really care about the color, I just care about kind of what's, you know, in the bottle, and you know how that makes me feel. And I thought that was a really good way of kind of like not just saying, you know, saying pansexual and then moving on from it. It was almost like really kind of responsible of the show to kind of be like, we've introduced this term to you, you probably don't know what it means, so we're going to explain it to you as well. And that was really good. I remember watching that as well, because I've only just recently watched the entirety of Schitt's Creek. I watched that and was like, oh wow, that was quite surprising. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, and once that scene came in, I really appreciated it at that point, and that's why it kept me in there. And I wish I had seen it sooner, and then maybe I would have gone to the conclusion. Well, I think we all would have gone to the conclusion way earlier in our lives of who we identify as.
Absolutely.
But going from there, we're gonna continue on with basically, when was the first time you realized that you are who you are? We can go ahead in prayer.
So mine, I guess, is a little, not necessarily complicated, but a little long. I think that I've always known. I think when I was talking about this last night, I think my first kiss was actually with a girl. I had a little girlfriend in like first grade, and I was kissing her in class behind a book. I'm sure the teacher had to have seen it. There's no way like a 6-7-year-old was like sneaky being like behind a book and like
Yeah, they
like
had to
looked
know.
down and was like, what are you doing? Didn't say anything. I'm sure there's no way she didn't. But then I also, sorry, I just like ran over my cord, whatever. So I then had boyfriends as well. And I remember like in third grade, also, I don't even think I had like put a label, or I think maybe I did. It was so long ago. So I had a girlfriend, and then I also had boyfriends, and then it kind of came to middle school where I was like, I think I'm bisexual. And then something kind of happened that I was going through a lot, and I kind of just didn't find anyone I connected with or just found attractive. So for years, didn't really like think about that, or was like, well, I guess I'm straight then. And like, so it wasn't until last year that I felt like my sexuality really came. I feel like it's like going through a second puberty where I was like, oh, women and men, excellent. I need both. you know. So I guess I would just say when I was younger, but then like I said, it kind of went away, and I think sexuality is very fluid, and so there can be moments in your life where you're like, I'm just not really feeling men, or I'm not feeling this, or I'm not feeling that, and that's totally okay. That doesn't mean that you're not this or you're that. You can figure that out, and you can take time to see, or maybe one day you're like, I'm feeling a little this way. It's not 50-50. I think for some people it could be, but that's not like that is how it is.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that just because we do identify as a certain identity, it's going to be different between everyone. It's never going to be the same. We probably should also preface that just because we do say our experiences is one, it could always differ between person to person. We're not defining anyone, but we are letting you know what we are. What about you, Aleka? When was the first time you realized you were pan?
I didn't realize I was pansexual until I was probably 21. So until I was already well into adulthood, because of learning more about LGBT and getting more involved with the queerness in myself and wanting to figure out more of who I was. And I came out as pansexual for the first time. It was actually on an Instagram story with somebody. I was doing like an AMA on Instagram, and so it was like, well, what do you identify as? And I was like, well, actually, I've done some research on this, and recently I realized that I'm pansexual, and that was the first time that I had like said it on something. And so then from there, I was like, yeah, that makes sense, and I feel comfortable with that and going forward. Before that, I had always known that I was interested in men and women and basically everybody kind of in between, just from when I was young. From as young as I can remember, I would remember having crushes on girls in my class too. And as far as like being 6 or 7 years old and having that happen. So I've been that way my entire life, but it wasn't until I had more exposure to it, because my family was never, it's not that they weren't accepting of me being LGBT. It was just more so assumed that I would be straight, because I was in a lot of hetero passing relationships. I had always had boyfriends. I've never had a girlfriend, but that doesn't mean just because if somebody is in a relationship that could pass as heterosexual, that means their identity is heterosexual and that they're straight, because that's very unformed. But that's basically what my kind of family one was like. So I was like, I'll just wait and kind of figure it out more on my own. And my mom's all been very okay and accepting with it, and my dad is still kind of taking time to it. My brother doesn't really get it. But it's also one of those things too, I think, that's important for people who have these experiences as well, where if you know you're not going to be able to come out as who you are, even if you've done research and know this, in a safe place, like if your family is very anti-LGBTQ, or you live in a society or a workplace, you are in a small town, etc., that's very closed-minded and it would put yourself in danger, then it's smart to keep yourself in the closet, even though you know who you are, until you can get out of that environment to a place where you can be safe. And that doesn't mean that if you have to hide that you're any less valid as a person and that your sexuality and identity is any less valid. It just means that you're making the smart decision for your health and safety until you can release to be who you are later on.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because safety is very important. And if you are in a hostile environment, you want to unfortunately, the sad fact is that you have to hold it in and stay closeted in order to protect yourself. And it isn't until you find, have a game plan to either move out or get yourself out of that situation and then come out from there. But that is a good point. Thank you so much, Leka.
Come out when you're ready too. Don't ever feel like you need to rush or feel pressured. I just wanted to add that. Sorry.
Yeah.
I want to add to that as well. That coming out day, National Coming Out Day, is not a day that means you need to come out. I know it might sound weird to say that, but a lot of people, and I know a lot of people sometimes try and force people. It's like coming out day. They're like, oh, it's come out. I know that you're closeted. Today is the perfect day to do it. No. Coming Out Day is a fantastic celebration of people who have and people who are going to come out. And that's it. We celebrate it, and no one should be forcing anyone to do any sort of coming out, or because you can put people in really, really terrible situations. So I just wanted to add to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Les, do you have anything to add? And also answering the question too.
I'm trying to remember even the first time. I think I've always had a sense that I was a lesbian. As far back as kindergarten, because I did have crushes on my friends who were girls, and so obviously when we were younger, we don't know those sort of things, and so when it came to middle school, it was a time where I was figuring out what exactly those feelings meant. And at the end of middle school, going into high school, I did keep kind of myself in like a bisexual box, and I only pretty much told my closest friends. And then I think right before my senior year is when I actually came out to my mom. But she had already knew that I was bisexual, and so I ended up telling her. It's actually funny because I ended up telling her while I was driving on a windy road, and me being an emotional Cancer, was crying during that time as well. So, It was a good experience. Like, she basically accepted it, and the thing that really got me teared up was that she was like, I'm glad that you have my friend Dane, who is a gay man, and that you have your friend Jessica, who is a straight woman. And she was just like, I'm just glad that you have those people. But I know kind of how they are treated.
Right. Yeah, and having that support system is amazing. And that's why we're all kind of on Twitch, apart from other things as well, is that once we create this community, we all become our support systems. And
I was gonna say, may I add to the coming out part? So when coming out as bisexual, I had some people being like, so I'm in a heterosexual relationship. My partner is very supportive, amazing, and even tries to pick up girls for me sometimes, and I get really embarrassed and start blushing. But so when I came out as bisexual, I came out to a family member, and they said, you can't be bisexual because you're in a relationship. So just because you may be in a same-sex, presenting relationship, or a heterosexual presenting relationship, that doesn't mean that you're any less valid.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to add that as well. And I'm really glad, Les, that you had that support in your life. Because I've had some people in my family support me, and I've had other people that just do not get it. And I'm very lucky to be in a partnership that my partner does fully accept me and we laugh and we have fun, we joke, and it is very nice. And that's why it's, I think, important to have representation to educate people on how to support us. But that's all I'm gonna say on that. So thank you for that.
I think that's a big thing too. Just when you come out to family, I think it's, even though like even sometimes you don't talk to them, it's still for whatever reason a impactful thing, whether they reject us or not. And that's why we have our support systems for sure. Watermelon, what about you? When did you know you were a genderqueer person?
So I have kind of like 3 moments of coming out within my life, which is fantastic. So I had my kind of original understanding of me kind of, fancying boys and crushing on other guys, which was, oh goodness, my lights just went out. Let me change that for a second.
Sure. There we go. Technical issues all around. It's fine.
Everyone's got them. So kind of when I was younger, around 16, 17, I dealt with a lot of feelings by writing. So I wrote short stories and whatnot. So I wrote, I tried to kind of put those feelings onto paper when it came to like me liking boys and, the thoughts that I was having. Silly 17-year-old Watermelon thought it'd be great to leave one of those stories on the dining room table. And my parents, who loved reading my writing, obviously picked up and read one of them. And then we had the talk the next day, which was, is there anything you need to tell us? Exactly. And I was incredibly lucky. They both said, both my parents were incredibly open, and they said, it doesn't matter if this is, how you feel, then that's absolutely fine. We just want to know so that we can help you and support you properly. So that was fantastic. And I kind of said to them at the time, I was like, I don't know. I'm still trying to kind of process all this. And I didn't properly come out until probably when I was 20 or 21. So after I'd been to university, going to university, stepping away from everything was a huge help, because it just meant I could kind of be like, this is me as a person. I don't have to worry about family, and I don't have to worry about the friends I had. Yeah, exactly. I can just be who I need to be here. So that was good. The aromantic side of me, that had always been a thing. I'd always had my parents or my family always saying to me, so when are you going to bring someone home? When are we going to see your other half? When are we going to see your partner? And it always used to be, oh, well, I'm just not really interested at the moment. I haven't found the right person. And then as I sort of came to terms with who I was, and again started finding the terminology for that, it was kind of like, that I started answering those questions with, you're probably not going to get anyone from from me. If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm probably never going to bring anyone home.
Right.
And again, family was very, very supportive about that. So that was good. But that was again another kind of long time of me talking with people and them telling me that, oh, you'll find the right person one day, and me going, yeah, no, maybe I will. I suppose I will. Everyone does, right? Eventually, everyone seems to find the right person. So it took a long time for me to kind of, crowbar that out of my brain and understand that actually that's not who I am, and I won't find the right person. I don't know. I don't like saying that. Maybe one day I will find someone who I absolutely do want to be with. I never know. But as it stands, no, it's not going to happen. And in terms of my agenderism, I was like, when it came to that kind of earlier this year, kind of a little bit before probably lockdown started happening, it was I started kind of like talking to some people, and I was like, right, I've done this twice before now. I'm going to do it properly this time. So I started like, making sure I was talking to the right people, reading the right articles, watching some videos. I started like slowly talking to, people who I knew I could discuss it with in proper detail. And then when I had that kind of full-fledged understanding of what that feeling was and how I felt about it, that was when I then kind of took to, a more public forum and was like, this is who I am. And that felt so good. That felt like really, really, it felt so nice being able to do it on my own terms, not having to worry about what anyone was thinking, and just being able to really explore who I was in my own time.
Absolutely. I think, I think we all go through changes and we take in labels to identify us as. But what's more important is to go like what you're saying. You get to be alone, talk to yourself, and get to know your feelings, because your feelings and how you feel is what's actually valid. Labels are just there to help other people know who you are quickly. And I want to go on to bisexuality as a stepping stone, because I think when we talked about it here, as well as in our Discord messages, we all initially said that we started out coming out as bi, and then found out later on from there that we found other labels, or maybe we stuck with sexuality. So basically, starting in reverse again with Watermelon, what do you think of bisexuality as a stepping stone?
It's
quote unquote. Sorry.
Quote unquote, yeah, definitely quote unquote. It's definitely a tricky one. Mainly because there's a lot of erasure on both sides, and what I mean by that is that when people are coming to terms with their sexuality, and I did this myself. I knew that I liked guys, I liked mass presenting people, but there genuinely was a period of probably about 2-3 years where I fancied female and femme presenting people as well, and I equally was in various relationships with both. And then it was because I was able to explore that more that I started feeling like I definitely had a preference to one, and then it got to the point that I was like, no, actually I am gay. And it's a struggle, because I hate using the term stepping stone, but it is right. It's essentially what I did, right? But it wasn't in any sort of, I wasn't trying to hide something about myself. And I know a lot of people assume that. A lot of people are like, well, bisexuality isn't a thing. You're just trying to hide the fact that you're gay, or, you're a lesbian or anything like that. And that's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. I don't condone it in the slightest. But a lot of people who don't understand the process that queer people go through to try and understand who they are, going through all of this middle gray ground, going like, which one of these things actually do I need to? You are going to land on several different labels before you get to the one that you're actually like, actually, this is me. This is who I am. Right. Unfortunately, because people really only understand straight, gay, and the only one thing in between that people really get is bisexuality, a lot of people assume that if you're one or the other, or if at one point in your life, you tell someone who you did tell that you were bisexual before, that you are now either straight or gay, they will just assume that the middle part was actually you were just, that didn't actually mean anything. You were just, that was just a stopping point. That was just something you were telling us in order to get to where you actually needed to be. And it's terrible. It's terrible, because I think that's what then leads to the wider bi erasure that we see within our own LGBT community. Right. So it's, in a weird way, and this may be the wrong word, and someone feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. I feel like for some people, it's almost a necessity to be able to go, right, okay, this is how I feel now, and then be able to continue to explore that and then change later on. As long as we're still being incredibly sensitive and responsible with what the term bisexuality means, and that when someone says to us that they're bisexual, we don't immediately write them off without even, considering anything else about that person. Right. Yes. What about you, Les? When the stories that you told me when you came out, you initially said you were bisexual. What do you think of bisexuality as basically something that people end up starting going towards first?
Definitely like what Watermelon was saying about how we don't want to essentially say that it was a stepping stone, but that was essentially, I guess for me in my experience, but the safest way to go. Right. Just because I wasn't sure how my mom or my parents were going to react. I didn't know how other people were going to perceive me as. And so, yeah, it was, that just kind of helped tremendously into, helping me as I am now older, helping me to really know what my feelings are and where I stand in terms of like my gender identity and as well as my sexual identity.
Thank you. What about you, Lekka?
For me, it was really a thing. Kiki kind of touched on it a little bit of you're either straight, you're gay, or you're bi. And those are the only things in the middle. And I, growing up, did not have exposure to a lot of the queer community. So those were the only things that I had for labels to try and guide myself with. It's not like I was knowing that, oh, this means that they're pansexuality and I just don't identify. There's demisexual. Like I didn't know about any of that stuff until I was an adult and was able to do my own research a lot more later on. So the only thing that made sense to me, I was like, well, considering there's only 3 labels that exist, since I don't just like women and I don't just like men, I then have to be bi. That was essentially it. And then from there later on, I could see that that wasn't actually true. So it was more for me a lack of education with LGBTQ terminology and just exposure to that in my life at all. So it wasn't a stepping stone in my case, more or less, or that I didn't really get it. It's that I just felt a lot more of a kindredness with pansexuality because of my liking of everybody in between versus just people that present and are cisgendered male, cisgendered female, etc. So that was more so with that. I think that there's nothing wrong, especially since that's a very common experience for a lot of people that don't have a lot of exposure to it, that were kind of in a similar position to me. To start out saying that they're bisexual and then going and figuring out their journey from there. It's just also going forward, knowing and being respectful enough to respect people who do identify as bisexual and that is their sexuality, and not assuming that, oh, because I started out coming with bisexuality and then turning into a different sexuality later on when I discovered more about myself to evolve and grow, because you're allowed to grow. You don't have to have one label and then stick to it for the rest of your life. Not forcing other people into those boxes too. Like, oh, well, I switched over to being a lesbian, or I switched over to being pan, or I switched over to being asexual later on, whatever. That means that anybody who's bisexual is eventually going to leave that label for something else too. That's a very ignorant take to have on it, because that's just simply not true. But there are plenty of people who are bisexual and are proud of their sexualities, like Emperor being one of them. And that's their valid and perfectly good experience to have. And for other people, they just start out with thinking they're bisexual and then change as they learn more about themselves and learn more information, are presented with new options that better identify with themselves.
Cool. Thank you very much. Emperor, as a bisexual person, how do you feel about others using bisexuality initially and eventually coming out afterwards? And what are your thoughts and feelings on that?
I think it's great. I think that people should experience their sexuality. I think that we should go through and get a taste of what we want to try. I mean, as long as it's consensual and respectful and things like that. But to see, and I think when approaching the not normal sexuality, right? The heterosexual, dominant world, and we're trying to step out of that. It is more of that, like, bisexuality can be an umbrella term. And I think some people, for some reason, hold on to, like, if someone says that they're bisexual, that it's a phase, or like, oh, well, they probably just don't know. And they seem to like hold on to that idea that they're probably just going to like convert back to being straight, or like maybe they'll learn. And I think also with using bisexuality as like a stepping stone, or like I guess we should say educating ourselves with it. I think would be a good term for that. I don't know if I think I might be lesbian, but I want to try, I want to see, because I think a lot of times with me growing up, I was like, well, am I being tricked? Like, am I trying to trick myself? Or like, people are like, oh no, you can't be. And then it kind of confuses you. And so then I feel like for me, I try to like trick myself to being like, oh no, I don't know if I think they're just pretty, or maybe I'm jealous or something. Like, we don't, when we're kids and we're younger, our feelings aren't fully developed. And that's why, like, why puberty, I think a lot of people start to like realize their sexuality and who they are, because you're starting to have an understanding, you're getting educated on who you are. So I my take on that is, you know, if that is your way of feeling comfortable and feeling safe, and even presenting yourself in a safe area, because that is the safe way to being like, how do I know if this person is okay to talk about this? If I say I'm bisexual, it's like that medium ground between heterosexual and like the LGBTQIA
person,
person, and if they are heterosexual and they're kind of more in the closed-minded sense, it might be like, well, they might change, or I'm okay with that. I think like if they're women, they're like, well, I think men are hot, and women are pretty too. And if they're men, they're like, well, of course I think women are hot. If you're a female presenting, some people are like, well, you know what, I hope that makes sense as I'm saying that.
Yeah, no, it totally does. And I think for the most part, I feel like a lot of us go towards bisexuality because it's a safe way for others to know that, like, okay, again, in like hostile environments, we can say that, and then there won't be any backlash on it. I think it feels also another one. And also, if it was offensive to use stepping stone as a word, as I was like creating the question, I wasn't sure what the proper term, but education is definitely like a good way, because it's bisexual is a valid sexuality, and even me using like stepping stone could also hurt, create, and go for total erasure. So and if it does, then we just have to learn from it and remember that. And but I want to go off that, I believe. Let me just go look at my questions real quick. But thank you so much for that wonderful information, Emperor. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah. And if anyone ever has any questions about bisexuality things, I think all of us are, I don't know how everyone else are comfortable talking about it on our channel.
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Open about that. So if anyone ever has any questions outside of this, feel free to hop into us, or not hop into us, please.
That's the other stream.
That's for DMs later.
That's also a really good point. Remember, I really wish I remembered to say this in the beginning, but there is a green box with the white heart in the overlay for PC users. Click on that, and you can follow all these amazing LGBTQIA streamers. And yeah, you can definitely go follow them, check out when they're live, and ask them questions about their sexualities and whatnot. But I do we'll continue from you, Emperor. Is there anything you would like to tell your younger selves, and maybe something that would help them in the future?
I think what I would tell myself is to fully be comfortable with myself. I still tell myself that every day. That I'm valid, that I'm beautiful, that it's not just a phase, or no matter how society tries to erase me and my sexuality, especially since that's kind of one of my big things. I don't necessarily talk about my relationship that much in a lot of sense, even though I have such literally a wonderful partner who is supportive. I mean, I look crazy all the time, and he's wonderful. That you will find your people, your group. Just stay true to yourself, set boundaries. And I think the biggest thing is experiment. Go kiss that with consent. Go kiss that person. I just always want to reiterate that, because I don't want it to get twisted. But make sure to experience those things. Don't be scared, as long as you're in a safe environment, of course. And don't be afraid to be who you are. I think we all kind of struggle with that. I don't know if anyone else has a take on that, but feeling like we can't be ourselves.
My advice that I would give to my younger self would be that, well, one, there's things out there besides bisexuality, being gay or being lesbian or being straight. Those are there's far more than those four things, and my younger self didn't know that. So that being a thing would probably be number one, because that would help a lot. But the second thing would also be that your sexuality is valid, regardless of who you're in a relationship with. So just because you are in a relationship with a man, and I am a cisgendered female, so it looks very heterosexual, doesn't mean that I have to be straight. I can be in a relationship with a man and still be pansexual, or when I was younger, what I would have considered bisexual. And that's still okay. You can not have had any sexual experiences with somebody of another gender and still be your same sexuality. Your sexuality is still valid. Just because you haven't had those experiences with another gender doesn't mean. That's something that I remember having had before, with people like, oh, well, if you haven't slept with a woman, then you can't be bi, or if you haven't, you've done X, Y, Z, then you can't be that. And that's not true. Those are people who are gatekeeping, and those are people who are trying to force you to be one way or another, and that's just wrong. So to my younger self, it would be, hey, just because you have boyfriends doesn't mean that your feelings and thinking like, damn, that woman's hot, or liking watching porn of girl on girl and stuff like that, that's totally okay. You can still like girls and still appreciate the female form and still be pansexual, etc., and be in a hetero-passing relationship, and that's okay. And so that's something I would give advice to my younger self and to anybody else who might be confused with their sexuality if most of their experience have been straight passing up to this point.
Wonderful. Thank you. Les, what about you? What would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell my younger self? Just to be myself, essentially. Just kind of wish that I knew kind of my feelings, not only my gender identity, but also my sexual identity, much younger. Well, essentially, I knew that looking back now, but I wish that I had knew for myself like what that meant, and just to be unapologetic about everything, and not be so hopped up on what other people think or how other people are going to see me.
What about you, Ellen? What would you say to your younger self?
There's definitely elements of what other people have said that I completely agree with. And I think to kind of add onto that myself, one of the things that again has kind of been a bit of a journey was that I used to tell myself that I wish I wasn't as scared when I was a kid, and I wish I wasn't as worried about everything. And then I think as I've kind of grown as a person, I've kind of started to understand that I was scared for a reason. There was legit reasons why I was scared about who I was and what it was I was feeling, and why I tried to hide that. And I think what I'd like to kind of try and tell younger teenage Rick is that, sorry, Rick is my actual name, is that there's to understand why you're scared. Don't just deny what you're feeling because you're scared of it. Explore it, understand why you're fearing it, and then from that learn and grow as a person and allow it to shape who you are, rather than just trying to stick it in a box and forget about it, because that's not how we grow. That's not how we grow as people. That's not how we learn who we are about ourselves. And on top of that, kind of mentioning what we were talking about, the bisexuality as that middle point, is to understand that there's that fluidity there is there's wiggle room. Not when you've said one thing, it doesn't mean that that's it. You're stuck to it for the rest of your life. To understand that you are growing and you're transforming as a person, and it's absolutely fine to go from one state to another. And if anyone else has a problem with that, it's their problem, it's not yours.
Yeah, exactly. We are all streamers here on twitch.tv.
What? I stream?
If no one doesn't know. Yeah.
What?
This thing's on? This is on?
Wait, Twitch? Live? Wait, there's somebody in there? Can I touch him?
My next question is, how do you use your identity in your stream at all, or is it like very apparent? If so, why? If not, why not? Watermelon, go for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I kind of the whole reason that I started streaming was because I used to watch a lot of Twitch streamers and go, there's no space here for people that who I feel like are my people. This was many years ago, before there's a lot more people now, hence this entire panel going on. But you know, I wanted there to be a place where, you know, people could come, people could be like, this is me, and I just want to be me, and I don't want to have to worry about what, you know, the streamer might say. I don't have to worry about what the people in chat might be saying. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be part of a community where people aren't going to be responsible for, you know, what people are using their platform for. So yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to like, you know, being a bit more, you know, identity branded, I have a non-binary flag right down here that's going up on that wall not too long time. So yeah, the entire point of my stream is to make sure that people can feel safe, feel at home, be a bit chaotic, because, you know, that happens when you're playing games, and understand that there is a space on Twitch for people, and that it's absolutely fine for you to be who you want to be. You don't have to hide that in a chat room or, you know, on a Twitch chat.
Absolutely. What about you? Do you have your representation on your streams?
As you can see, I do have kind of like the rainbow colors in the background here, which is an overall kind of vibe. But other than that, as far as my stream, you know, I try to at least do, you know, my gender identity being non-binary and making sure that I'm respecting other people's pronouns and that everyone else is respecting of my pronouns. But as far as maybe some things I could probably add to, you know, maybe have, you know, some non-binary colors, some of the lesbian flag colors as well that I could probably also add.
Yeah, well, I'm not necessarily saying you should add them or anything like that. If it is part of your streams already, which honestly, when I hop into your streams, or when you have the BRB screen, you just have a non-binary background in the background occasionally. Okay, what about you? Do you have a representation and in part of your streams?
For me, I have a timer that pops up in chat every so often that's like, hey, if you guys have questions about drag, if you guys have questions about LGBTQ, etc., you can feel free to ask me those at any time, because you only learn by asking, and you only understand more about yourself with information. So I encourage people to ask those kinds of questions, in addition to a lot of other things that pop up with timers in my chat. But I don't have my sexuality as a focal point of my stream, and I know that a lot of people, including wonderful people that are here too, have their drag as a focal point of their stream as well. Like their drag name is their username, etc. Right. And and I think that's really awesome, because it shows a bunch of people that like, hey, we're very proud of who we are, and this is what we're going to do. And for me, I enjoy doing drag, and I am very proud and open about talking about being pansexual, but I just don't have it as the center point of my stream, because I just do so much stuff outside of just those things as well. And I am very open to talking about it, but rather than having it be the center point of it, it's more so just a part of me and my experience and whatnot than the everything that I have going on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, everything's totally fine. I just want to see if there's any more to our entities, and see if that is something that we do on our channels. And Per, what about you?
Yeah, I tell everyone that I'm bisexual. Well, I don't do that, but I flirt with chat occasionally. No, just kidding. No, just kidding. Anyway, so yes, I do talk about it. I think that it's important to have a dialogue, at least for me. I have an all-inclusive community because I really want to focus on mending that bridge between heterosexual and LGBT. Not that like LGBT needs, you know, we need allies. And
Absolutely.
I think sometimes we need to have those dialogues and those questions. So I'm happy to answer people. There's definitely respectful ways of asking things, but yeah, I have a open dialogue with that, because I think it's important. And I think that having that representation for people can make them feel like, wait, that actually resonates with me. I love, because when you see someone else like be that, it like inspires you and to do that. And I definitely know I've seen people that are bi and drag and everything. And it has inspired me to being like, that's who I am. That's what I want to do. And that's who I want to be. And that's who I am. And so I think it is important to have those dialogues and to have those representations. And so it's very much a part of my stream. Just to have those dialogues and to help people come to terms with how they're feeling and express that and be open.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's really great, because I also try to be very open whenever it comes to questions about sexuality. For the most part, there's still a lot that we all don't know, but I think we all do try our best to answer questions whenever we can. What the occasional troll comes up on my kind of streams, and I tend to try to see what's going on from there, maybe try to persuade them. Obviously, if they just go straight into the slurs, ban, but if it could just be like another person as well that is just lashing out and, asking, trying to see where that goes from there. But thank you so much, everyone. We might have one more question. What is your favorite part, Emperor, about being bi?
It's so fun being bi. I honestly, I think it's one of my favorite things, because I think everyone's hot. Like I see people in video games, I'm like, oh my God, everyone's so hot.
Especially my shirtless body.
Oh my God.
Go out your les all the time. And like I've mentioned before in my partnership, it's nice to be able to like be open. One of the funny situations, if I may tell this quick story.
Oh yeah, you're fine. We have that didn't mean that we had a little bit of time, but
okay. I ramble a lot. I mean, I don't know if anyone notices, but I ramble a lot, so I want to make sure that I'm not like, you're like, no, we don't.
I got you. I'm moderating. I'll cut you off. I'll press the mute button.
Just close out the Zoom.
I was gonna close it out.
Cool. I'm glad that we have this. But my partner and I were driving, and he stopped to let this cute girl cross the street. And he's like, I see you looking. He starts to roll down his window, and he's like, he doesn't do that. He jokes, and he's like, do you want me to talk to her? And I was like, I cannot believe you stopped of course let pedestrians cross, but he like intentionally it was like at that point where he still could have gone, and it was like, okay, like he obviously was being safe, but he was being funny. Or there's this other time, there was this really cute girl at the coffee shop, and he was like, there's a really cute girl there. And I like looked, and I was like, and I don't know how to handle women. I'll just be honest. I'm sorry, Kay. And so when he said there's a cute girl, I looked and I went, oh, and I instantly turned red, and I went like this. I was like, oh my God, just get the coffee. We gotta go. Like, are you blushing? And I was like, no, just please. And I've performed on stage. I mean, I'm here. Like, I can embarrass myself. I'm used to that. But I was like, no. Let's I don't even want the coffee anymore. I want this girl. I gotta go. We gotta go. I think it's so fun. I love it, I think it's amazing. Yeah, that's all. I don't know what everyone else's experience. I'm interested in hearing them.
Yeah, for sure. Lekka, what about you? What's your favorite part of being?
Probably my favorite part is since I've basically my entire life been in heteropassing relationships, is all the people I've been in relationships with have been straight. And so where I'm like, God, she's so fucking hot. They're like, yeah, she is. So, similar to In Prayer. And, you just think like, God damn, they're sexy. And if I'm talking about like somebody that's a drag performer or something else, then they're like, the fuck? No. So that's my own personal thing. But something else I really like about it is that I get to flirt with literally everyone. Like being pansexual, right? Exactly. Like I can flirt with hot women. I can flirt with hot dudes. I can flirt with hot agendered people. I can flirt with non-binaries. Like literally anyone that I'm just like,
they're on the table.
Exactly. You're all on the table. And
like
I love that. Yeah. And especially like as a streamer too, like Prayer had mentioned it before, I flirt with my chat all the fucking time. Like Everybody comes in. I'm just like, how you doing, you sexy motherfuckers? Like, that's how I greet my stream. And like, I just call everybody hot. I call everybody beautiful. Because one, it's a good thing to be able to lift them up and give them a confidence boost. But also, like, you know,
come to your chat more often.
Yeah, there you go. Like, I'm a hot woman, you know, and so a hot woman flirting with you, when you're doing that, it's a good confidence booster, and it feels good. And also, I like making people uncomfortable and in a funny, blushy way. So it's great. It's one of my favorite things. I love it.
I love that. Les, what about you? What's your favorite thing about being a non-binary lesbian?
I mean, definitely Emperor hit it. Hit that pretty well. You know, just being, just fawning over other women is just, it makes me blush sometimes and all of that. And same with Emperor, like sometimes I don't know how to like talk to women or like react, like just things just happen. I don't know.
Well, call me out, Les.
I'm sorry, but like I don't know. Like some of the relationships that I have gotten into, it just happened, and I don't know. Like I'm just like, oh, okay. But yeah, just seeing other women and seeing them be confident in themselves, like that's what like attracts me.
Wonderful. What about you, Watermelon?
I think when it comes to the gay side of me, I'm a very basic gay. There's nothing interesting there. I think when it comes to the aromantic side, I do love being that kind of like, I can be the tea drinking meme in a room full of people complaining about their relationships and their other halves.
Right.
I can just be sitting there going, yeah, don't have that problem. Don't have that issue. Yeah. And everyone's going, oh no, I can't do that tonight. I would love to do that, but you know, my partner wants me home by X time. And that's the kind of things that I'm sitting there in that room and I'm just like, I'm so glad that I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to, you know, my time's my own. And I get that, you know, a lot of people do love that. But for me, that's the kind of parts that I'm just like, the thanks. So yeah, I think that's kind of the interesting part of me. And it's a lot of the time when I'm chatting with people and they're like, oh, you know how it is. And I'll be like, no, actually, I've never really had that problem before. I don't really, you know, my time's my own. I do my thing. And if someone's got a problem with that, then they can off, like that's it. And then a lot of people who are in relationships will kind of look at me and be like, that's kind of an awesome way to live. It's like, yeah, it kind of is. But yeah, I think that's probably the most interesting part of my aromanticism.
Wonderful. Cool. And I think I'll kind of leave it out in the open for you guys. Do you have any questions for anyone in this panel that you have towards anyone to this panel? Watermelon, do you have any questions?
Not off the top of my head. No.
That's totally fine. If not, I could continue on with the questions that I have on hand. I just want to see, because like one thing for sure for me in particular for you is like, because you're aromantic, does that mean you don't ever want to be in a relationship, or you can't be in a relationship?
Yeah, that's the one I get asked quite often when I talk to people about this. It's not necessarily that I can't be in a relationship. I can be in a relationship. I find it very constricting. I find it very uncomfortable a lot of the time. If someone gets upset because I'm not spending time with them, that doesn't necessarily upset me in return, but it just makes me very, you know, I feel very claustrophobic when that happens. A lot of the time, if you know, someone's like, oh, well, you know, maybe we can spend this time together, and they don't understand that I'll need, you know, I want my own time. That's usually where the relationship breaks down. And that's happened with a lot of past relationships. And before I knew that I was aromantic, I used to always just think I'm a problem, I'm an issue. Like I'd have this, you know, is it because I'm an introvert? Is it because I don't like, you know, spending all my time with someone else? And, you know, when I came to kind of realize that, you know, aromanticism was a thing, and I kind of understood that that's not something that I necessarily need to go to, you know, kind of, you know, covet, and I need to aim towards. It kind of become a lot clearer. And if I've been in 2 relationships since kind of understanding that I was aromantic, and in those relationships I have very, very clearly set the rules. So I've always been like, you know, if there's going to be times where I'm not going to want to hang out, and it's not because I don't want to be with you, it's just because that's kind of how I feel, and you kind of have to understand that. One person was not okay with that, and that kind of died out very quickly. Another
Right.
person understood that, but the relationship just wasn't great at all. But it's hard. It's a really weird feeling of, you know, if they want to do something and I'm not feeling it, I just feel very trapped, very claustrophobic. I just feel like I need to, you know, remove myself from that situation.
Right.
So I kind of try not to anymore. And
Okay.
as I said it earlier, if I feel like the right person might come along, then great. And I will explore it. But I'm not like, you know, I'm never actively seeking. I never go to bed going, oh, I wish someone was next to me. I've never had that feeling before in my life, ever. So I'm kind of happy to accept that. And if something does happen, we'll see. But I'm definitely not on the lookout.
Okay, wonderful. I'm sorry that if that question came out of surprise.
No,
it's
not
not
at
even
all.
part of the questions either. And
not at all.
These off the top of
It's
my
all
head
good
right now. Les, do you have any questions for any of the panelists at all?
Not that I can think of. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I do have a question for Kiki, actually.
Yes.
So I am not very versed on the whole things of romantic versus sexualities, and I've gotten questions like those in my communities as well. So with you being aromantic but also being gay, not identifying as asexual, how does that work? Does that mean that you still have feelings for men, and you would, for example, be fine doing one-night stands or having open relationships in that way as far as just sex is concerned? Or does that mean that you aren't interested in them whatsoever? I'm very curious as to how that works.
So I'll caveat this by saying that obviously it differs for everyone. So this is not what every aromantic thinks.
Right.
I know that there is the idea of being like the AAA, which is the agender, aromantic, and asexual, and there are people who are that. And that they are people who are very happy to, you know, not have sex, not have any romantic relationships. Their gender is, you know, either not important to them or they don't have one. And that is, you know, fantastic for them. For me, I am definitely not asexual. I do, you know, I love having kind of sexual relationships with people. But again, like I always caveat any you know situation I find myself in with, this is not going to turn into anything else. This is what it is. We're just having some fun. And if you want more, then let's just not go any further with this now, because there's no point me getting wrapped up in it, kind of thing. And some people think that's quite cutthroat. Some people think, you know, it's a case of, you know, me being emotionally unavailable, but it's just, I feel like it's better just to kind of set those boundaries down really early and be like, you know, if you want to fool around or whatever, then that's absolutely fine. But just know that it's never going to go any further than that.
Oh, wonderful. Impra, do you have any questions for anyone on the panelists?
I don't think regarding the panel, but I do have a question if anyone would like to see my cat Hadley.
Yes.
I know he's very loved.
Absolutely.
That is actually very, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Well, that was actually kind of perfect, because we're going to be closing in soon. I did get the 5-minute mark. Impra, where can we find you on social medias and whatnot?
So you can find me at In Prayer on Twitch. I stream all the time because I'm currently unemployed due to COVID. So that's great. Feeling good, feeling normal. You can also find me on TikTok. I think it's In for Prayers, or it's In Prayer. It's either In for Prayers or In Prayer. Also on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, I'm a variety streamer. I love playing Diablo 2, Dead by Daylight, Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts. If you're into that kind of stuff, or you like some chill and some chaotic vibes, I can deliver those.
And it's In for Prayers.
Yes, in the number
4 prayers.
Cool. Yeah.
Lekka K, where can we find you on all social medias?
Lekka K on literally everything. You type in Lekka K, I have like 3 fucking Google pages of everything of myself that pops up. So like it's very hard not to find me when you type my name into anything. So yeah, I make it very easy. I am on Twitch if you're specifically curious about my Twitch streams 5 days a week, Tuesday through Saturdays from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm actually going to be streaming some COD Zombies and Dead by Daylight tonight. If you guys want to come through and hang out and chill, you're more than welcome to. I do everything from visual novels to Fall Guys to retro to Nintendo to just all kinds of fun and fuckery. So I would love to have more people involved in that if you're interested.
Wonderful. Thank you. Les, where can we find you?
Obviously, you can find me on my Twitch at Lesbayana, as how you see it here on the panel. I play Dead by Daylight, some Bioshock, I do Pokemon games, I've gotten to do some Pokemon card openings. And yeah, you can always check me out, and you can check me out as Shirtless David on many of the other streamers here. Yeah.
Wonderful. Watermelon, where can we find you?
You can find me everywhere with the weird spelling of watermelon that's just below me here. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Snapchat, all that good stuff. And yeah, I stream 7 p.m. GMT, which I believe is 2 p.m. EST and 11 a.m. Sorry, no, 2 p.m. EST, yes, and 11 a.m. PST, I believe is correct. So yeah, and we do variety. We do lots of Dead by Daylight. We do MMOs, Pokemon, kind of whatever we're feeling. So yeah, it'll be lovely to have you pop into my stream.
Wonderful. And my name is KiyoshiYoRHa. I'm just saying like what I say on raids. I'm a pansexual drag queen here on twitch.tv. You can find me on all social medias with KiyoshiYoRHa, KiyoshiYoRHa on all social medias. It's my Twitter, it's my Twitch, it's my TikTok, unfortunately Facebook and Instagram. So you can find me. Actually, my Facebook is actually Queen KiyoshiYoRHa. So there's that, I guess, if you want to find me there. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for being here. I really appreciate you all for having me, reverse that, for you all being a part of this.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. But yeah, we're going to be closing off. Thank you so much everyone for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful Sims Drag Race coming up next.
Ooh, yes,
Bye.
bye. Bye.